Would you like to be able to make more sales and bring in clients almost effortlessly? Welcome to the show. I'm Carissa Karner, and you are going to love my guest today. His name is Victor Dwyer, and he's going to share with us about how to focus on relationships instead of focusing on selling in order to build your business. Now, Victor helps businesses advertise and post content to increase awareness and to bring in more sales. And his company, Dwyer Enterprises, they do Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, social media postings. He has created an incredible, powerful full service agency to develop and edit the creative for ads and to properly advertise it for the best results for your business. And I'm telling you, Victor knows all about creating a successful business. I'm so excited to have you on today, Victor. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Totally happy to be here, and I think we'll talk about some amazing things. So let's get right into it.
Let's get into it. Will you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So my name's Victor Dwyer, and basically we help exactly what you said. I couldn't have said it better. When it comes down to just any way of helping businesses, basically approach when it comes to either advertising, TikTok, whatever it may be. And also the Amazon side and growing that as much as humanly possible. Started out on Amazon, then kind of got into external traffic with Facebook, with TikTok, and all these other places, and basically doing what competitors aren't doing, essentially. So, like right now, there's a lot of leverage you can have on TikTok, and you're able to get really high traffic and for a very low cost because no other brands are doing it. So that's kind of what we help do is basically do whatever your competitors aren't doing. So that way it's not as expensive. So yeah, that's a majority of what we do on the business side.
Wow, that's brilliant. And you really have an expertise in Amazon. You have a specialty there, I think, don't you?
Yes. I definitely know Amazon really very, very well because it's super fast changing, changes every 48 hours. So that's fun for me. I like when things change fast. I have to live in those type of environments or I won't be happy. I can't like just work at a bank or something. I would die. So yes, it's perfect for me because it's super fast changing.
I love it. And I love how you have developed this skill to be able to see what other people aren't doing it and to what aren't other people aren't doing, and then to leverage that to really build success for yourself and for your clients and customers. That's amazing.
Yes,
So
exactly. And
cool.
at some level, I'm like a nerd. So deep inside me, I am kind of a nerd. So when it comes to data, I'm going, oh, so the competitors are doing A, B, and C. Okay, cool. Let's do this and this will work. So it helps being a nerd at some level to like do those things.
You're like a cool nerd.
Yeah, I'll be a cool nerd. Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get here? How did you learn how to build your business and to find these places in the market that other people aren't doing?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, started out interning, had to basically reach out to 10 different marketing firms. All of them said no. One, I eventually got one to say yes. Became a web developer for that marketing firm. And then eventually started to get into Facebook ads, learning that on my own. And then I basically went to this other Amazon consulting company. They said, hey, I need Facebook ads to Amazon. Tried that out. It was super successful. And then all these clients said, hey, Victor, like we need help on the Amazon side. Like that's where we need help as well. So then I started learning the Amazon side, the on platform, Amazon advertising. And then I started my own business. And then that's when I started getting into external traffic to Amazon and doing servicing for the Amazon on platform stuff as well. So basically started out as a web developer, Facebook advertiser to Amazon person to starting my own business. So that's kind of the journey that I got through by doing all these things. So yeah.
That's amazing. And when we talked the other day, I really got the sense that you just went for it. You started your business and it grew fast. You have some skills of building a business that are very unique and very powerful.
Yes. And it comes down to having some type of level of dynamic. So like first of all, I didn't know like how much I sucked at being organized. Because I do like structure. I like setting up types of like automated systems that work. That's interesting to me, but I didn't realize how truly unorganized I was. So that is why I had to hire based off my weaknesses, I have to figure out, okay, what are my weaknesses, and then hire accordingly. Because out of the 60 employees we have, 53 of them are women. And there's a reason for that, because women are way more organized than a guy will ever be. So that's why it's super valuable. And that helped me scale even more, having that level of organization. So that way they organize me, and I'm better fit in a chaos situation where I can be put in a situation of a group of people never met before and have a super dynamic conversation and not have to worry about what to say, because my brain thrives in that chaos and that ability to have no idea what's going on and yet still perform extremely well, which an organized people usually can't. That usually drives them crazy. That unknown drives them crazy. With me, I live off that unknown. So that's what I love doing. So yes.
That is so brilliant, Victor, because I feel like there are two parts to this. One is that you really got to know yourself. You found out what your strengths were, and then you leveraged your strengths. And then the places where you weren't as strong, you hired people to come in and to be good at those things so that you could live in your genius, in your expertise. And that is such smart business.
Yes. It's almost a requirement as an entrepreneur for you to do that, and not attach ego to saying like, oh, or being a perfectionist saying, oh, I can do everything. I do everything better than my employees. No, I suck at 95% of things. I suck at 95% of things I suck at. There's always a person that is specialty that is going to be better than your thing that you learn on the side. For example, I know how to do video editing. I know how to do all the Facebook advertising, all these things, but there's people that specialize in that exact area, which are going to beat me in every single way. I'm not good at most things, but the things are, I know the things I am good at, and I go all in on those things. I'm not a perfectionist. I know I suck at most of those things. I let other people do those, and I let them do it way better than I will. So I don't attach my ego to anything that I do. And I tell my employees, it's super important that I remove the filters, and I say, hey, if I suck at doing something, you have to tell me so I can get better. And if you don't tell me, it's a disservice to me. And when I tell them that, like, whoa, like I can be really honest with this guy. So that's what I tell all my employees, because I want them to be brutally honest with me. So that way I can always be better, always be progressing. That's my number one goal. And I just tell that, and let them be super honest. And at some level, they respect that about me. So that way they can tell me I suck when I do suck, because I need to know that. So that way, oh, that is one of my weaknesses. And I need to figure out how to either develop that or hire for that. So that ego piece is extremely important to make sure you don't attach ego to anything. Yes.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So many gems in there for entrepreneurs and business owners. Not only when you have that support that you need for the places where you're not as strong, not only does it, I mean, you said that's when your business really took off, was when you brought in more people to do those things. So there's that piece. It helps your business grow, but it also, it sounds like it allows you to hone in on what you're good at. You can put more time and energy into what you're good at, which also builds the business. And then that piece about you got to let go of the ego and let people tell you, hey, that's not your forte. Let me take care of that for you. And it just makes the business better and stronger and to grow faster.
Exactly. And then there's also the culture piece within that as well, by being super honest with your employees. And like culture is a huge piece for me. Like that ability to first say, hey, you can be truly honest with me, and then also always trying to add value in every situation for them. As an entrepreneur, I really only have two jobs: make sure everyone's communicating and that they enjoy their job on a daily basis. Those are my two jobs. As long as I do those two things, I am doing my job. And people have a natural inclination to like certain things, like through natural, like for example, a Facebook advertiser, they're in that because their mind likes data at some level. They like that because they like the promotional aspect that people are going to see it. There's certain mind things that they grew up with that they enjoy being in that certain job. And it's my job to understand those things, identify what they enjoy, and then put them in a situation where they're most likely to love it. So that way I know I would rather take someone I would rather take someone that has zero experience, but I know that will like it because they will always surpass someone that hates their job on a daily basis. I
Mm.
always know they're going to try to do the least amount of work and not try very hard. But someone with zero experience will try to learn, adapt it, and keep going faster, because in marketing, it changes every 48 hours. So if you get someone that is only there to do their job, then they're not going to do a very good job. So that's why you have to get someone that super likes it a lot, because they're going to be diving in. They're going to figure out, okay, what's changing now? What's happening there? Because experience in marketing world is good at some level, but also you're going to start using old ways since it changes so much. Marketing was completely different from a year ago from it is today. So it's really important to identify those different things. So yes.
Wow, you're speaking to such important things about leadership, about being able to know who is not only going to do the job well, but to have that ability to give somebody something that they're really excited about.
Yeah.
And I think you're speaking a lot to relationships. And I know relationships for you, that's something that you've been able to use to explode your business. Can
Mhm.
you say more about that, about how you build relationships and how relationships have helped your success?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it all comes down to always adding value in every situation that you're in. So no matter if it, I've never had a conversation where I was trying to sell someone as a client. I will
Mm.
always, at the end of the day, provide as much value to them. And if they become a client, cool. Like I literally could not care less if someone becomes a client. It doesn't matter to me, because once you add value in a value, then you become more valuable. That relationship becomes stronger. That's my goal. The more stronger relationships you gain, that's when things get built out. Like normally people don't have no idea what my business does, but they do know that my name is Victor Dwyer and I know a lot about marketing. That's usually everyone, that's all they know about me. And they come to me and say, like, Victor, what the heck do you actually do? And what that causes is, when people have a Amazon situation in mind, a marketing situation in mind that they can't figure out, they're like, and they talk to their buddies or something, and they're going to say, oh, this Victor guy, I have no idea what he does, but I know he knows a lot about marketing. He could probably solve the situation. And that's the goal. And that only happens by adding value and having that strong relationship where you're top of mind. That's where the value is. So my goal is not to get a client within the next 20 years. My goal is to establish a relationship, see if I get an opportunity next 10 or 20 years. That's how far I think. So I don't care about the short-term gain of anything. I only care about, okay, I need to make as many relationships as I can right now, because I know in the next 10, 20, 30 years that those relationships will benefit me.
Mm.
So that's the biggest thing for me.
Yes, and you're really talking to this idea of adding value first, that you're not coming into relationships thinking, what can I get from this person? Can I sell this person? Will they buy from me? You're coming into the relationship in a way that truly builds a relationship of
Yes.
putting value for how can I serve this person? How can I help? How can I be here for you? What can I do for you? That is such a different way of looking at networking.
Yeah, it is. And like when you establish it, like especially with the way you treat employees, it's always about, okay, what can I do for you? How can I help you out the most? Rather than saying like people ask me like, hey Victor, how do you get the most out of your employees? But that's a horrible question. That was like an awful question. It's like you're using your employees. It's like that's like punching your employee and say, how can I get the most out of you? It's like you're trying to get water out of them. No, that's not the best way to phrase it. It's you try to add as much value to your employees, saying, what can I do for you? And then your employees will naturally want to give back. Like, like my all my employees, they see how hard I work, and they in turn say, wow, like I need to work 25% as much as Victor does. And that 25%, I'm pumped. Like we have my culture is so strong that we use heart emojis. Like I tell one of my employees I love them every single day. And that and we have that type of culture where that's like not weird. Like we all use heart emojis. It's just how we roll. And I love that. That is in my eyes is a successful business. I don't necessarily care the financial gain of the situation, because I know the employees, the when you build that culture, they're going to tell their good friends also that are also good employees, saying, hey, we have an awesome culture here. And that incites where they do enjoy their job on a daily basis. They do want to come into work and things like that. And that's the most important thing for me. So I think that is one of the best things that I've created. That's the most thing I'm proud of. Really.
Mm.
I don't like, you'll never see me brag about financial gain. You'll never see me brag about anything else. But when it comes to culture and having that strong connection with my employees, that is something that I love talking about and I love like bragging about, because it takes a lot of effort, but I think it's totally worth it.
Wow. I feel so inspired by that. That's incredible. And I keep thinking about how what you're talking about is when you focus on relationships, even with whether it's with your employees, whether it's with people you meet out in the business world, people you meet on LinkedIn or Facebook, that you are putting the relationship first, putting adding value first. And what happens is when you're not focusing on success, you're not focusing on, of sales, you're not focusing on the dollar signs, that follows anyway. It's like that's the icing on the cake. It feels so good to have these powerful relationships where you are spreading heart emojis around and you can tell each other you love each other. And it's this culture of support and care. And the success and the sales naturally follow.
Yes, exactly. And
Oh,
it's also important, like on a social media sense, like on a LinkedIn post, for example, you can just do that from natural engagement. So there's a difference between adding value and sales, and people see right through that every single time. So let's do an A/B test example. You have post A on LinkedIn. Let's say you start just telling everyone about your business and what you do. Let me know if you want to schedule a consultation. You will probably get less than 100 people see that, because you're not adding value. They see, oh, this person's just trying to get another client. Skip. They're gonna not care about anything that you say. They're not gonna remember your name. That, like, you basically potentially lost a relationship. But let's say in scenario B, you post something that's extremely valuable, the latest Amazon tip, for example, and then they go, oh wow, this Victor guy, he's told me about the latest Amazon tip. This is actually pretty cool. Like, and then what you said, what you just did there is, like, you just started the process of starting a relationship that, through enough repeated times, almost more than 3 times, if you add value, people start to remember your face, then start to remember your name, then start to go down, and then they're like, dude, like, what does this guy do? So what social media does, it allows the ability to scale relationships further than what you would have naturally have gotten. And that is much more valuable than if you just constantly repeat sales posts, because that's all LinkedIn people do most of the time, is they just constantly post the same sales crap that no one wants to listen to. But at the end of the day, if you post actual value and you go down that route, it's going to be so much better, because you're at the end of the day, everyone is gaining. People are going to know your name, and a lot of people don't see the value in that. They just don't see the value of people knowing their name. They go, Victor, how does one person knowing my name increase my financial gain? I'm like it's you're thinking way too short term. You're thinking in the, like, less than a month from now. Like, no, like, the value of someone knowing your name is incredible. It's like, that is my success metric, really. I don't care how many followers I have. I don't care about all that crap. But having one more person, one more strong relationship is extremely valuable, because in the next 10 years, that one person is going to interact with thousands of people. And if you have a strong relationship, that one person, you have now just established a relationship with those 1,000 people, because when you become top of mind, that now that person will speak for you, saying, hey, this Victor guy, he knows his crap. And, like, that could happen across 1,000 different times. You just completely scaled from one valuable relationship. But people think so short term, and they don't realize the value of someone actually knowing your name. It's really, really is powerful.
that is gold. And I can see how your heart and your technical brain and all of your genius come together here in this, in that you're leading with heart, you're leading with relationships, and then you're also describing in step-by-step detail the value metrics of that. This is how that actually plays out into your success. Is not only does it feel good, But when you look at the long game, when you look at the big picture, that one person can turn into 1,000 people, can turn into 10,000 people, can turn into 100,000 people that all know your name.
Yes, exactly. It
Wow.
couldn't be more powerful as I'm not going to call it a sales tactic because that's crap, but I'm
Mhm.
going to say that will expedite your ability to get clients a lot faster by just like when I go on a sales call, you wouldn't realize that I'm on a sales call. Like I'm extremely personable as a person, and I genuinely like talking to people. So I'll get to know like who they are, what like where they're at. And if we happen to talk about business, awesome. Like literally that's how my sales calls go. And then I just say, hey, like we're not a good fit, but I'm gonna guide you to someone that is. And then on the call, I'll try to add as much value as humanly possible. So that way, like no matter what how they go, how the sales call ends, they go, wow, this Victor dude really knows what he's talking about. That's my goal to get my point across is, hey, like no matter what happens, like this Victor guy, he knows his stuff. That's my number one message that I need to communicate to their brain. So no matter what, they're going to want to at least be near me, somehow follow me, somehow get to me, and always stay in constant communication with me. Is because when you add value in every scenario, you have all the leverage, 100% of the leverage. When you become more valuable than the person you're talking to, now you have all the leverage in the situation because their brain is going to say, I need more. I need more value. I want to gain more out of this relationship. And that is the thing that they're going to be communicating in their mind. Now you have all the leverage. Now, if since I don't care about getting any client, I have all the leverage in the world because when I go on a meeting, I don't care if they become a client because I'm good. As long as I can eat and sleep, I don't need anything else. So I don't care about having that extra oomph. If they become a client, cool. Because I'm thinking in the next 10 years, if they don't become a client in the next year, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like they know who I am. That's my success metric. So, yeah.
Wow, this is absolutely brilliant advice. And it leads me to think about, what if somebody feels nervous about creating relationships or nervous about doing networking, even maybe nervous about sales calls? Like what advice would you give to someone who doesn't really know how to create those relationships?
Yes. So it's the first thing you have to overcome your fear. So number one, my first LinkedIn post is, guys, I'm scared to post on LinkedIn, and like I'm scared on posting on LinkedIn. This is my first post. And I posted it. I was like, whew, like I was genuinely scared, very scared to post. I have no idea why. I have no idea whatever. Like I don't know what people were gonna think. It's probably insecurity on my deepest part, whatever. But eventually it's just something you have to conquer. And it's the same thing in real life. And that's when I thought I was an introvert. I was around nerds my entire life. Like my entire school career, I was always king of the nerds. That was me. So, and I was like, oh yeah, I identified as a nerd. Identified as an introvert. Like those are things that nerds, they don't ever go outside of their group. That's just not what nerds do. And I identified as that. But as soon as I graduated and started like talking to people, I realized that's a natural human thing to be afraid to talk to other people that you don't naturally know. Once I realized that, I basically just started to talking to a bunch of people and being able, then I realized I was an extreme extrovert. I love talking to people. And it first starts, there's two parts of every conversation is you have to do the initial, hey, that is so hard. When you're beginning to do that, going up to a random person that's just on their phone and just saying, hey, it's hard. It's extreme. I was terrified to do my first hey. And then it's having navigating a conversation. There will always be that awkward, that always be that unknown. But if you want, I take the full bullish approach, meaning that I would rather say, hey, have my first conversation be extremely awkward. And now, like, I would just say, hey, and I'll stare at them, making it super awkward. So my next conversation, like, it can't be more awkward than my first conversation. So like that I take the full bullish approach that I jump in the pool and then say, okay, let this be super awkward. So my next conversation, so I don't have to, it's not scary anymore, because the scary part is like, for example, you don't want to have that awkward moment where things become silent. But if you start your first conversation doing that awkward moment, then it becomes you're like, because you treat it like you're going to die. You have that fear factor in your brain that says, hey, if this happens, you're going to die. That's why you get scared. That's why, and your fear is the number one thing that will control your actions. And you can't let that happen. So if you let your first interaction do that thing you are extremely scared of, it becomes okay. You know, that awkward moment, you're not going to die because your brain truly thinks that between jumping off a bridge and saying, hey, and having that awkward moment, they treat them equal. It really will, until you actually do it, doing that first initial awkward thing. Then your brain says, oh, I'm still alive, guys. Your brain says, okay, I'm alive. I jumped off the bridge and I'm not dead. And then from there, your second interaction, you can say, hey, and then it'd be less awkward. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to die. This is a normal thing. I can just say, hey. And I'm at such extreme point where a group of people that I've never known can be having a full out conversation, an intellectual conversation, like at a dinner table. This is what I do at conferences. I'm crazy at conferences. They'll be, I'll literally grab an extra chair, pull up to them, sit in the chair and say, hey, my name's Victor, and completely interrupt their conversation. And they go, hey, Victor, how are you? And that is how extreme I am at this point. So that's full out. I had to initially do a lot of work. My first conference, I tried to talk to 4 different people. I was terrified. Like I was utterly terrified, heart beating, like shaking, like full out scared, terrified. I thought I was going to die. And doing the first 4 people that I talked to ended up being my biggest client ever. But anyway, like it's really important to do that first initial hey, and then second, being able to navigate that conversation. Sorry, that was long. That was my monologue.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible. What a journey. I mean, a journey from being so nervous at your first event and talking to 4 people was such a big deal, so scared, feeling almost like jumping off a bridge would be better than this.
Yes.
To now being able to just pull up a chair and join a group of complete strangers and feel totally comfortable.
Yes.
What a journey. And I love this idea of just diving into the awkward. Just dive right into the awkward, embrace the awkward. And when you do that, it's like you're confronting the fear and you find that you're not going to die. Yes. Everything's going to be okay. And it makes everything from that point on easier.
Exactly. Oh. Like that's where like public speaking or anything, whatever it may be. I was terrified to be a public speaker as well. I did the same approach. I went in front of a group of people, went up to them, and for the first 30 seconds, I did not say a word. And the reason why, I had to take in that awkward moment because I was afraid of choking, afraid of all these scenarios happening. And I had to first embrace those awkward things. And then from there saying, okay, it's okay if I forget something in the middle. It can't be more awkward than this moment. It literally cannot. And like my heart's still beating extremely fast. And then after 30 seconds, I says, okay, I'm not going to die. This is going to be okay. And then I went from there and I conquered that initial fear, conquered that initial thing. And then eventually I learned how to articulate my thoughts in a certain way because my brain is kind of crazy. And the fact that it's like a million bouncy balls popping around. And luckily I'm able to articulate my thoughts and slow them down enough to communicate it. I used to not be able to do that. But eventually, like, I think for me, it's conquering that fear, diving in head first is the most important thing that someone can do because fear will always control your decisions, no matter where you are in your life. We are designed. Humans are programmed to be controlled by fear. The ones that did jump off the cliff died. So we are the cavemen that jumped off the cliff died. So we are the descendants. We are the creation of the most paranoid people, of the most paranoid evolution that there was. It's a true fact. So it's really important to conquer those fears, to push past them because they will control your life. There's no doubt about it. And that's why my mentality is to always not dance around it and try to get around it, is to dive in head first and make sure like that awkward moment versus you dying, saying, okay, I can have this awkward moment and not die. So they're completely different. When you say it out loud, it sounds crazy. It's like an awkward moment versus dying. Those are two separate things. No, your brain treats them different, treats them exactly the same. So you have to dive in. That's the only way I found out how to conquer fear.
And it sounds too like it's almost like you're able to bring consciousness to that feeling of, okay, talking to someone feels like death, but hey, brain, let's just try it. We're not actually going to die. Because it does. Our brains are hardwired to think, well, if that's scary, that is too dangerous. That means potential death.
Yes.
So to be able to work that muscle of like, okay, I think I'm probably not going to die if I just step on this stage and begin speaking. Speaking to that too, I just want to ask that you share. You mentioned that you learned how to slow down your brain so that you could speak one thought out of your mouth. And, our audience is entrepreneurs, experts, and also speakers. And anybody who's having trouble with that, I would love for you to share how you learned how to do that so that they can hear that from you.
Yes. So it was my number one thing. I used to stutter every sentence, seriously, because my thoughts would go so fast that even like on this podcast, I am speaking kind of fast. And the reasoning why is because my brain goes a million miles an hour and my words could not go at the speed of my brain. And that's where I was like, okay, I have to develop this. And the way I did it is I did Toastmasters, which is like a public speaking. You go up in a group of public people. And when I would get up there, my first speech, I spoke so fast, you probably couldn't even understand what I was saying. And like, because I'm so high energy, I'm so sporadic and things like that, that I had to learn to slow down my thoughts just enough to articulate what I'm going to say. And that was the biggest thing for me. It took me a year of practice to learn how to slow down my brain to communicate my words enough to get to this point. Because you have to think, my brain loves chaos. My brain does not structure things accordingly. So I had to learn how to structure my thoughts, because everything I'm saying right now is not planned. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to say next. It's just always having that ability to be dynamic, trusting that, hey, I know what I'm going to say next, no matter where I go. And then going from there is the biggest thing for me, just through having natural conversation. Because, for example, I can go up to a group of complete strangers and have a conversation and navigate. Oh, you're from Dallas. Oh my gosh, me too. Like just navigating natural conversation by being extremely dynamic. So basically, what I want to end with that particular thought is, it's really important to slow down your thoughts, learn how to articulate them, and doing it in a public manner makes it where you become an effective communicator. Because before, I would stutter every sentence. It was really hard to understand what I was saying. And just through natural communication, learning from Toastmasters and things like that, that was the biggest game changer for me. Because as soon as you step up in front of a group of people on a stage or a very scary situation, you become a different person. No matter what it is, you become a different person. So, like, for example, if you go on the stage the first time, you can be like in the room over completely alone. You can be jamming out, you can be dancing, you can be But as soon as you step in front a group of people and you're not used to it, and people are all staring at you, you're like, whoa. And then you're just like, you're shaking, your heart's beating. Remember, cliff. This is you standing at the edge of the cliff right now. You're like, this is scary. And because there's a million thoughts, what's going on there. And it's really important to learn how to articulate your thoughts and go through those things, so that way you can communicate even in scary situations. Like, when I public speak in front of a lot of people, I'm still nervous. People don't know I'm nervous. Like, my heart's beating a million miles an hour. I'm still able to articulate my thoughts because I'm used to being in those situations now. Public speaking is still scary for me. Don't get me wrong. I'm still scared to public speak, but I'm able to accept that fear and keep going and able to articulate my thoughts. And the fear doesn't control me. The fear is still there. Don't get me wrong. I can still public speak with that fear. That's the only difference that changed. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I love that idea that, yeah, the fear can still be there. The anxiety can still be there. The difference is that you're in a different relationship with it.
Yeah.
And even that idea of stepping on stage and being a different person, I like to say of it's you amplified. I think one of the most advanced public speaking skills is being able to be yourself. Just turn the volume up a little bit when you're
Yeah.
on stage, but to really be you, to feel like you can step on stage and your nervous system doesn't turn you into somebody else, that you can really be you. You said something else that I wanted to highlight is that you practiced for a year. And that's so valuable because, it's not like you just made this decision or had this realization, oh, my brain is faster than my mouth can keep up with. And then boom, poof, everything was better. That you practiced, you put in the time and the effort and the energy, and you practiced. And that's how you got to be in this place now where you are able to get on stage anytime and speak in a way that people can really take in the value of what you have to say.
Exactly. In public speaking, like joining a public speaking group of any kind doesn't necessarily need to be Toastmasters. They help show you when you public speak, if you can speak in a public environment, in a public speaking manner, you become such an effective communicator just normally. Because, for example, I used to say every single every single space. I used to say and like that's how, no, seriously, that's how bad it was. And eventually these public speaking places, they'll teach you not to use filler words. They'll teach you, say, hey, Victor, you got to slow down your thoughts. You got to slow down your stuff. And it helps you, because I used to always speak with my hands. I used to always do this. And this is how I used to always speak. And I would speak at 1,000,000 miles an hour. This is how I was, that is how I would speak. And they say, hey, Victor, use your hands a little less. And I do. I still love using my hands. Don't get me wrong. I'm a very hand speaker, but yes, they did teach me how to slow down my thoughts, not use filler words, not use my hands as much. And that made me way better effective speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a year of practice because my brain was so much faster. And you have to get to that level at some point, and they'll teach you inner quirks that are like weird for that particular person. We all have our inner things that are weird. Like I said, facial expressions before, is there's these inner quirks that you don't realize that you do as a human being, that for some reason you do. I don't know why it happens. Like for example, I might like use my hands a lot. I might do like say, hey, Victor, you need to smile sometimes while you do it, or you need to like do this. You can just like, there's certain inner quirks that you have, that public speaking group, that you can get a lot of value off of once they're truly honest with you.
That's right.
So it is pretty powerful to become an effective speaker. And normally in a normal environment, being a public speaker will make you even more effective communicator. So yeah.
Absolutely. And the benefit of having feedback, the benefit of having a coach, somebody outside of you who can give you feedback, because we don't know necessarily what our idiosyncrasies, if we're saying a lot, if we have hedging words, we don't know that if you don't have somebody outside of you giving you feedback, that honest feedback to help you improve. There's so much value in that.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Thank you for sharing that and being so vulnerable and honest with your journey with speaking. That's so helpful.
Yes.
And as we're wrapping up here today, I would love to know, out of everything we've talked about today, what is the one thing you would hope that someone listening, that they would take away from our conversation?
So first thing is vulnerability in the ability to remove filters is very powerful. So as humans, we are like, how when a kid goes up to someone and say, hey, you're fat, like they don't have filters yet. Like that's something that they haven't developed. But through like culture and things like that, we'll eventually get filters on what we say. And to be an effective communicator, through all my employees, I always remove their filters, so that way they can truly be brutally honest for me. For example, let me give you a scenario. I made a painting, okay? And I say, Carissa, can you please let me know? I worked really hard on this painting. I spent a year working on this painting. I want to know your thoughts. And it's a disgusting painting. You're going to say, hey, Victor, that looks Awesome. Yeah. Yes, you did awesome. But now scenario B, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm working on my painting skills. I'm trying to develop them. I know it's gonna kind of suck right now, but I really need your honest feedback so I can be better next time. Then that filter I just completely removed. So now you say, oh, I can be truly honest with him right now. And that filter was just completely erased.
Mm.
And the ability to erase people's filters is powerful communication wise. So that way you can get to what they truly mean, because we always sugarcoat, we always filter what we say. In my job to become an effective communicator, I have to break down, first of all, I have to identify that filter that people naturally have, and then break it down next so that way I can get to write what they mean. Humans will never tell you exactly what they mean. I don't know why. It's just a thing that happens. So you have to break down these filters and say, hey, in this scenario, what truly happens? You can be totally honest with me. Don't worry about it. And that way you have ability of trust in there, and they don't have to sugarcoat as much. I would say that would be one of the biggest things that I want to communicate is people will always have these filters. They will never be 1,000% honest with you. It's not how humans work until you break down that filter that humans naturally have. Then they can truly be honest with you. That's one of the
Wow.
biggest things that I learned over time.
That is so powerful. And just taking that all the way back to relationships, you're really speaking to how to create a powerful relationship, a relationship that is built on trust and creating that safe space that we can talk about things. You can, tell me where my challenges are. You can tell me what I need to improve. And I am so open and willing to hear that.
Yes, exactly. And then the second thing I want to make sure to communicate is the sales over relationship conversation. The biggest takeaway for me is understanding the long-term aspect of every single scenario and having that long-term mindset of saying, hey, no matter what happens in every situation, you have to remember you are only one relationship from changing your life forever. Like if anyone can look back in their life and say, wow, this one person led me to this one person that led me to this one, like, and just it keeps compiling. And you can go back 1,000 people that way and see how much it changed your life. But you have to have that mentality of like every single scenario. I find this extremely fascinating. Once you can go to a person, a complete stranger, and then meet them, and then once you have that relation, once you meet them, it's like you look back at that first interaction, you find it so funny when you first met them. Like, well, let's just say a dating partner. The first time you met them, you sat next to them on a bench, and then you just randomly did that one day. When you look back at that situation, you're like, wow, that's so funny when we first met on that bench. Isn't that hilarious? And then just I do that across all my relationships, because that one relationship, you have no idea that could be the one person that led you to this person, that led you to this person, that led you to this person. And this fourth person changed your life.
Ah,
And that's the biggest thing for me is go in the mindset of, first of all, you have to find that value in having relationships. And the value of that is that could end up changing your life. Because as we know, it's not about short-term gain. It's how many relationships you have. It's not even about what you know. I interned for 3 years, not realizing that no one cares about my experience. No one cares about my skills if no one knows you have the skills.
yes.
So it's all about relationships at the end of the day. It's not even what you know. It's about who you know. And so if you have the ability to scale these relationship aspects that I'm talking about, that will bring you a lot more success than any other marketing trick or anything else, because the ability to communicate what you think and to establish that value is way more amazing than any sales pitch that you can do. It
Mm.
really, because once you are adding value, you have all the leverage. It's like the easiest sales pitch ever. It's like saying, hey, this is your problem is A, B, and C. Okay, here's how one of the ways we can solve that. Here, I'll show you right now how to solve this trick. And then they go, whoa, he just showed me right now how to make $1 million like increase for all my ads. And like what can he do if I'm actually working with him? Like
Uh-huh.
these are the things. And then like now they're thinking, oh my gosh, Victor's super valuable. Victor, like now they're always going to be thinking like, okay, I need to use Victor. I'm done. Like I got to use Victor. I keep thinking about him. I got to use you. And like those are the scenarios that happen. And that only happens by adding value. Like that's the only way you can establish that strong connection with someone is by adding as much value as humanly possible. And the way to find those things is, first of all, when you see in the conversation, you can obviously know how interested someone is based off like if they're looking at you like this, or if they're looking at you with actual interested eyes. Like facial expressions, a way you can see how much value you're adding to the end person. And then second thing is by just constantly iterating on what you find valuable and then communicating that out. Essentially, any learnings that you do or anything else like that, that's where a lot of the value comes, by just naturally going through your life. And you'd be interested or knowing that you have to remember everything is obvious to you in your own mind because you're always in your own mind. But what is obvious to you is not obvious to someone else. And communicating those things is extremely valuable because it's a different mindset to what their current mind is. And that you don't realize what's valuable and what's not. I'm just saying the crap that comes inside my brain. So I don't know what ends up being valuable in everything else. But then once I communicate these things and people go, oh, wow, that's really interesting, actually. Then I go, huh, I guess it is kind of interesting now that I think about it. I don't know why I think this way, actually, but like, it's only interesting until you communicate. And then you go, wow, that is kind of weird that I think that way, isn't it? So it's really important to have that type of dynamic and communicating that.
Yes. And trusting your gut and just sharing what you're passionate about. Yeah. So I just want to say that again, for you to hear, if you're listening, that you could be one relationship away from changing your life. So focus on adding value, step out and create those relationships and let that lead the way. Let adding value and creating relationships based on value, heart-centered relationships lead the way. Anything you want to add to that before we end?
And just not just always keeping in mind the relationship aspect and not the dollar sign aspect. Like you might say like people, because when people like at a conference, they'll see dollar signs above everyone's head. That's their intention. Yeah. People always find your intention. Always. No matter where you at or what you're thinking. Like if I do a LinkedIn post, let's say I add a ton of value. Okay. And then at the very bottom of my LinkedIn post, I put, hey, if you want more information, check out my business website. And at some level, that's okay because you did add value. But now your intention becomes, oh, rather than just adding value, your intention becomes, oh, he's just trying to get another client. So that's the difference that I want to push is just try to establish that relationship, add value. And if they are interested in your service, cool. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And because people will always see your intention, if you're okay with that intention in sales, that's fine. But as soon as you start selling the very millisecond you start selling, people's ears close, no matter what. They will be listening like this and they will be not being hear a word you say. But as soon as you add value, now they're listening. That's the goal. And you want them to listen to you as much as possible. But if I go up to a random person at a conference and I just start selling my services, they're not going to hear a word I say. It's just going to go in one ear, one out the other. But if I go to them and saying, okay, these are their problems, this is how I would solve that, and I give them a real scenario that could potentially make them money, and then they go, wow, that's very helpful. Thank you. Now I have implanted a seed inside their mind, a memory, a strong memory that's valuable to them, and I associate it with me. And now they're going, okay, like then they'll go, okay, Victor, like, wow. Do you have a card or something? Like I'm extremely interested. Now you have someone that is extremely interested in your service. But if I went to that same person and just pitched what I do, he'd go, yeah, I don't care. Like literally, like inside their mind, they're going to say, I don't care. Like, just go away. I don't want to deal with this. Yeah. And so the two different situations, same exact person, but one person asked for my card, but the other person could not care less. They're just going to throw it in the trash as soon as I give them the card. So that's extremely valuable to lead with that value, lead with that, let them ask you for your card. And that's the biggest thing for me is you want them to ask you for your stuff and not the other way around. I
Yeah.
never hand out my business cards ever unless someone
Yes.
asks for them.
Well,
And that's the biggest thing for me.
you've certainly added value here today, Victor. I mean, there are so many gems in this conversation. It's been absolutely wonderful. And so I'm going to ask you for your card. Will you share with us where can our audience find you? Where's the best place to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, victordwyer.com. That's my personal branding website. I'm more on LinkedIn, very active on LinkedIn. So you can always shoot me over a invitation or shoot me over a message. Happy to answer anything. Happy to answer, Victor, what the heck do you do? I get that on a daily basis. I'll be happy to tell you if you just send over, Victor, what the heck do you do? I will be happy to answer your question.
Fantastic. And Victor's website and his LinkedIn handle will be in the show notes, so you can find it there. But you know that if you reach out to Victor, he is going to add value. He's all about adding value. And thank you for guiding myself and guiding the audience in how we can all do that more in our businesses. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.